Okay, we are live. We're back. It's Monday morning. My name is Sunny Ray. This is the Sunny Ray Show. Thanks to our sponsors, GTF Ventures and Raz Rocket. Today, I'm joined by Andre Deette. Andre, how you doing today?
Rosani, I'm good. Always good to see people on a Monday morning. Everybody comes back after a weekend of chilling, and then it all suddenly jumps at you Monday morning, and here we go.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm really pumped. What a title we got here. And Andre, I'd like to kick off with just maybe a sentence or two or a couple sentences on what you're building today, the project that you're focused on. And then what we'll do is we'll just put that on ice and come back to it maybe near the end of the interview. And I like to focus more on the person, but I like to get that out of the way as well, because I know people are probably wondering.
Sure. Sunny, with pleasure. No, Wasim, one's always taking a look at who are you working with. So I'll go ahead. Sometimes my accent's a little strong, so feel free to stop me if something misses along the way. But the whole basis around it is, Sunny, what we do is commerce, as you know, it doesn't work that well. There's no infrastructure. They don't have they don't have overnight delivery. The geographic areas are too big. But there's a different way of going about that, and that's by featuring the digital, the offline bricks and mortar stores on a digital platform, and that's what we do. And we then partner with large players like telcos and banks to solve the distribution problem. I think the two areas in Africa that you need, or in emerging markets, is distribution and trust. So we solve that by means of connecting with a telco or a bank or a neobank, and then be able to feature every platform to be able to be found and then to engage with guys that are in the offline environment, sitting in a what is called in Africa a township. It's like a rural area where you've got a mom and pop store that is a shop within a house, within a room in a house, where people would like to go and shop there, and they'd like to be involved in the digital economy and the digital environment, and to be able to be found on a digital platform.
Fascinating. Hey, Andre, your video and audio is coming in and out a little bit. I don't know if you're able to tinker with it a little
Same with
bit.
yours.
Same with mine. Okay. Not sure exactly why, but we could keep going, and then I'll let you know. But yeah, so there's a few things in there. Hey, Andre, I was doing a bit of research on your background. Did you build something similar to Shopify in Africa?
No, we built the biggest price comparison site, but not a not an
Price
e-commerce site. Yeah.
comparison. Got it. A price
Yes.
comparison site. Interesting. Okay, so we'll get into your background and talk more about kind of your journey. But correct me if I'm wrong. Did you study medicine way back in the day?
Sunny, yes, yeah. I did a couple of years of med school. And you're going to laugh at this one, but I realized I was not so excited about working with sick people. I was looking to work with excited, people that are out there. But, sick people, somebody comes, you see 40 people a day and say, take an aspirin, give me a call in the morning. That was not with the direction that I wanted to go. And it doesn't take away from doctors and the royal calling that they do to save lives. I don't want to minimize that, but for me, it was just not what I was looking to do. Strangely enough, in my third year, I read Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, and I was like, there is phenomenal stuff out there. The world is a fantastic place. There's so much potential out there, and it all works how you resonate and how your frequency runs in the world. Let me not get too philosophical, but that in itself fires me up.
Actually, I was gonna ask the opposite. I'm on episode number what, 250, 300, and nobody's brought up Napoleon Hill, which I find quite surprising. I've got maybe 3 copies of that book on the shelf behind me. Definitely had a big impact. Can you maybe just spend a sentence or two, like since you brought it up, like what is it about that book that set you free?
Well, Sunny, the whole basis around it is how you vibrate in the world. If you vibrate an idea out there, somebody else is also going to pick it up in the same level, and all the ideas in the world are there. If you just gotta tune into the right frequency, and the ideas will come to you. But you've got to watch out if you share that frequency out too much, somebody else is going to pick up on your idea. That's why you see so many ideas in the world come out at the same time without people actually speaking to each other about it.
Great. Okay, so and then I was also reading you sold your first business at the age of 27. What was that business, and what made you believe you could pull it off?
Oh,
Was it a
Sunny,
book?
what we've done is we built. I went into direct marketing. I did encyclopedias door to door. Now this dates me that I still lived in the time of encyclopedias. It's like saying something like you lived in the time of dinosaurs. But we had encyclopedias, and then I built an educational system, how to teach kids how to learn, how to use colors and visuals and pictures to be able to change the written word into a mental picture, and then to add those things together and to be able to learn. And we built this business up across from a very small office in a very, very dingy part of town into 3 different cities that we had the business. And then I sold it, and moved on from there. I sold it to my senior management at the time, and moved on from that to and then when I was 28, I lost it all again the year after that, because I thought, suddenly I'm the big businessman, and this was pre the dot-com boom, so we were still traditional businesses. There was no internet, there was no mobile, there was no payments, there was nothing. It was just traditional businesses of going door to door and selling products.
Did you say it was Encyclopedia Britannica?
No, it was called the Collier's Encyclopedia, but
Did you say?
it wasn't Britannica.
No, because my uncle used to sell Britannica, and my dad was, I think, maybe his first and his only customer. But boy, did that set serve us well. So yeah, maybe I'm dating myself as well, but I wouldn't have it any other way. So, how bad did it actually get, and what kept you from quitting? So you mentioned that you ran into some major challenges, right, in the form of a business not going your way. How bad did it actually get? Can you maybe elaborate a bit, and what lessons did you draw
Oh,
from that
what's
experience?
up? You're 28 years old, so how bad does it get? You move in the back room of friends of yours, and you buy an old classic American muscle car to be able to drive around. So the one that you can rebuild on weekends, that you can take the engine out and put it back again. And there's an old Ford Capri with a V6, a 3-liter V6 engine, and anybody that is a petrol head will understand the dynamic or the excitement of that. But that you're so bad that you got to service your own car, and build stay in the backyard of friends, or the back room of friends, and work from there, and go back to selling stuff direct, and face to face again.
And then you left South Africa for nearly a decade. I believe you went to London and then Asia. So what were you looking for that you couldn't find at home?
Yes, I'm going to go. Well, not so much going to look for something, but just spread my wings a bit. Geographically, South Africa is far away from everything else that is out there. So you've got to understand the dynamic of getting into an economy, and very much a first world kind of economy. That you have in London, but then also Asia. Asia was a phenomenal learning ground of how the Asian mindset thinks, and how business is done when you've got masses of people around you. You've got billions of people in China, and 1.4 billion in India right now. So learning how the thinking is different when you've got billions of people and everybody clamoring for that one opportunity is a massive learning ground that one goes through. But it was fantastic to travel around the world a little. Probably my biggest lesson was that and why I came back to South Africa is that everywhere in the world there are problems. You can't run away from your problems. Wherever you go, there are problems. Everybody's got their own internal problems. But when I coming back to South Africa, people speak my language, and the problems are the ones that I understand and I can handle. You can move around the world, but the problems are the ones that you understand, and those that you can solve yourself, and the challenges themselves that are the ones that are in your direct economy.
And then you were essentially building fintech businesses in Asia before fintech was even a buzzword. What was that world like back then?
Yeah, it was just the start of the internet and the start of basics. So we built payment gateways, or the first time that somebody had a prepaid Visa or MasterCard. So it was a prepaid platform on a MasterCard rail. Those things were not available. You guys, I think in the US, got a thing called a green card or something, or it was green, something green was a big payment platform in the US that had done very well. So you got the prepaid Walmart card, I think, also came out around about that time. And we then built this for the Asian market. What was interesting about that is that cash was a tricky one. So we built it for blue collar workers across the islands in the Indonesia and the Philippines. Because a guy on an island it wasn't easy for him on a Friday afternoon to get cash from his employer. So what he would get is a card that would then you would preload money onto it, so he could then go and use it in his immediate vicinity, and he could pay for it. And that's probably where our localized now. But the whole basis around it was that there were different ways to be able to do this, and we were probably some of the earliest guys to build a platform. You used SMS and MMS at that point in time, and even USSD, which is probably a foreign term to most anybody in an established market. But the whole basis around it is that you can then, by means of an SMS and a USSD, you could check your balance and understand what it was all about. And you couldn't at that point in time yet send money to somebody else, but you could pay on a card to be able to get things going, and not need to send money to an island every weekend. So it really helped to alleviate the different money sending issues and money payment that staff that were in outlying areas had. So yeah, early stage fintech, by far, very, very early stage fintech at that point in time, which has now exploded around emerging markets. You take a look at M-Pesa in East Africa, which is probably the biggest mobile wallet in the world. I think 94% of the GM of the GMV of Kenya runs through M-Pesa, through a mobile wallet. Not GMV, the GDP.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, I don't know if you know, but I started India's first Bitcoin exchange, and back in December
You'll
2013, and we drew a lot of inspiration from what we learned from the South African market and with what happened with M-Pesa. So let's keep maybe moving. So I had another question before we switch gears here. When did you know, like really know that you were an entrepreneur and not just someone who worked for themselves?
Sonny, I'm not going to say that I knew it, but I was stimulated by my dad. You're going to love this one. So I was at school, and my dad bought me my first, I'm going to call it an analog camera because it had film in. And I used to take photos of the athletes at athletic engagements. And I still had a darkroom at home, and I would take film and go and develop it in the after school, and then bring the photos the next day and sell it to the athletes. And I started there, and this is stimulus from my dad. He'd always wanted to become an entrepreneur. He was a stockbroker, but he was probably born a generation too early. He was always looking around and trying to hustle here and hustle there and trying to create new businesses. And he put that down onto his son. So he got me my first camera, and then one day he flew. He had a conference in Asia, and he came back from Hong Kong with a tape deck with double tape with two tapes in. So this dates us again. So he had two. It was a double tape deck, tape front and tape back. So the biggest present somebody could get over Christmas was empty TDK tapes. And then what you would do is you would put it in and buy an album. We were what's them what's the word when you copy music? We were bootleggers at that
Bootlegging?
point in
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Of
Yeah,
course. Okay.
bootlegging, exactly. So somebody would get a new album in, and you'd put the tape in and tape it across, and then go and sell these tapes at school. And so it was photographic photos. A lot of people still remember me as the guy. I was very short when I was at school, and they teased me still that I was the guy that had a camera that was taller than he was. And because I would walk around with this camera with a big lens on the front, take photos of all the athletes and the sportsmen, and and then go and develop it back home, where I had the whole development dark room with a light that shines down on the paper, and then develop these photos and take them back to school and sell them to the students at the, at the equivalent of a dollar or two each.
Oh, I love
And
that.
started businesses there. Uh,
I love that. I love that. So then when you came back to South Africa in 2010 and joined Price Check, what did you see that others were missing?
Sunny, I'm not so sure if I saw it. It was the international experience that I picked up, specifically when I was in London and seeing where things were going, and also in Asia, and starting to see what the Asian markets. So it's probably I can't pinpoint specifics, but it's probably the collective experience of the 10 years that I'd been abroad to be able to bring that back and understand that the where people are going is the digital world is where people are starting to engage digital payments, fintech, and all of the pieces that fit together in an e-commerce world is exactly what we did with Price Check, is to be able to build the the digital discovery of what was happening in the e-commerce world. What's interesting about that is the coming back and understanding local problems is what is where we are now. Is we built in 2013, probably worldwide, the first barcode scanner into an app. And what we could do there is you could barcode scan in a store the back of the barcode on a product, and it would price compare the online price, so that you could then see what is the price in the store equivalent to what I could get it online, or do I negotiate with the store and say, look, I can get it online for $100, you're selling for $120, what discount are you going to give me? But that crossover between online and offline, it actually won us App of the Year in an international platform. We beat 150,000 other apps to be able to become App of the Year, because we were the first guys crossing this chasm between online and offline, and mixing them, the two of them together, and to be able to do that. So
So
early stage
smart.
days of
So smart. Yeah,
technology.
that was actually gonna be my next question. So to that point about that, so when did you realize that mobile was the real unlock and not the internet?
Yeah, Sonny, probably during those days, I was with, and as Price Check, we were part of a company called Naspers, Naspers. Now, Naspers is a very interesting animal, because it was a South African media house that invested early $50 million in what is now WeChat and Tencent, which is now a multi-billion-dollar business. It's one of the biggest and best investments of all time. It has left the South African media house Naspers as a billion-dollar business off a $50 million investment. Anybody listening here that doesn't know about the story, go and investigate the Naspers 10-cent investment, and you'll see it's a couple of 1,000% return on investment. It's still known as one of the biggest investment returns of all time. And what had happened is this South African media house, Naspers, had gone around the world and invested in 40 different countries into price comparison sites, e-commerce sites. They still run under the name Process. They're now registered in Amsterdam, but have it's a multi-billion-dollar business, and have there our advantage was we learned from all the different businesses that Naspers had invested. There was a yearly conference that we'd meet all the leaders of the businesses, and that network itself taught us where the future of the world was going, and we started seeing what's happening with WeChat and payments, and specifically coming out of Asia, the payments and what's happening on the mobile space, mobile wallets, mobile conversion. And then one takes a look at Africa. Africa is not a mobile first continent; it's a mobile only continent. If you think about Africa, all you got to think about is mobile. Do not try and sell something on a laptop, because the guy in Nigeria does not have a laptop. If he sees a product, it's online, it's in his mobile, and there's 85 million customers there that you've got. But you've got to play and make sure that it's mobile optimized, and that they trust and understand where you're playing with this thing.
That's super cool. So after Price Check, you led a company called, was it iFlix? Am I saying it correctly?
Uh, Sunny, yes. iFlix, fascinating and an exciting time in my life. iFlix was a streaming service. So the dynamic around iFlix was a bunch of entrepreneurs out of Malaysia that are very well funded. And what they did is they took a look and said that hardly any streaming services are working in emerging markets. So they went to the studios and said, give us your content at 20% of the price that you would charge a Netflix or a Disney Plus or something. And it's money that you don't have in any case. And it gives us the option to be able to go into emerging markets and sell this streaming service at a much lower price, because it's a much lower ticket item in emerging markets. And we raised a ton of money behind that business, a couple of $100 million, to do a land grab across emerging markets and expand it. This is where the blitz scaling aspect that you get from Reid Hoffman, the book he wrote, Blitz Scaling, is this is exactly what he did. We scaled into 28 countries in 14 months. And that in itself is a phenomenal figure of being able to put offices down, go live. In two of the countries, we went live in 6 weeks from start to go live. And it teaches you how to be able to do this fast and furious and effectively, and own the market. And that then, strangely enough, we exited that business, or that business itself exited to Tencent late in the I think 2019, but also exited to Tencent, which is back close the loop with my Naspers days.
Wow, that's crazy. So did you say Nasper? I've definitely heard of them, and probably pitched them here and there for some of my businesses. But did you say they were shareholders in your company, or you were part of some network?
No. Naspers was not a shareholder. No, we'd exited to Tencent, which Naspers was an investor in back in the day.
Got
So,
it. Got it. And I
just
do know about that investment. Okay, cool. So this is really interesting. So the concept behind Flood, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, it's kind of like a Shopify for physical stores, would you say?
Yeah, Sunny, nice comparison. It doesn't
Yeah,
create
but
an
I keep going back to
e-commerce site.
Shopify because it's the biggest company in Canada, right? Like Toby and all these
Yeah.
guys are just on the street. So that's why I'm trying to find some hooks here. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so the hook is a Shopify for retail stores, but it doesn't create an e-commerce store. It's where you find the store, find what's on special, communicate with the store, and go in store. You don't buy on the platform, you buy in store, because there's a cashback if you use the wallet that's on the platform. There's a bunch of interesting verticals that sit on it. But yeah, so it's effectively the Shopify for bricks and mortar retail.
Very cool. Very cool. So telcos and banks already have the users, but can't fully monetize them offline, right? So when did you see
Correct.
that gap as the actual opportunity?
In 2019, one of the big telcos approached me to come and help them with their digital strategy. And as I wrote the strategy for them, which they didn't follow, which is now Flood, we realized and took a look at, and actually, Sonny, where the big lesson came was with Price Check. And if you're gonna love this, story is in 2013. So we won this big prize. I was in California and went to go and pick up the award, and we were on the front page in South Africa. South African app wins App of the Year worldwide. So front page of 2 newspapers, etc., etc. So I fly back and I land and I walk into my office. I say, "So how many people downloaded the app?" Thinking that we had a couple of thousand downloads, and 13 people had downloaded the app. And I was like, "Wait a minute, there has to be a better way." And so we started taking a look at the model of who has got the big distribution networks already that they're not capitalizing on. And we started partnering with the telcos and said, we'll build the marketplace that makes sense to the local market, and we help. So now you have 2 sides to the flywheel. You need to have merchants and you need to have audience. So if you on both of them sit on the telcos app, you've got a small business that has a mobile line, and you have an end user that has a mobile line. And how do you get the 2 of them together? Well, you use our platform to do that. Is where the exciting part comes in.
So super app as a service is a massive idea. WeChat and Grab essentially cracked to Asia. Why hasn't it worked yet in Africa, and why is Flood different?
Well, Sonny, very interesting question. And the whole basis of self-promotion pops in. Yeah, why hasn't it worked in Africa? Well, there's not been a specific reason for people to be able to use it. And a lot of the e-commerce players that come, you've got this interesting dichotomy, is that funding comes from the emerging markets, e.g. Silicon Valley and America. But the thinking is not there. There's not an understanding from that point of view. It's easy to go to Silicon Valley and say, let me build the Amazon for Africa. Then you go to Africa, so you get the money, then you go to Africa, and the Amazon's not going to work because there's no e-commerce, there's no infrastructure. Let me give you an example. I see you frown. The post office in South Africa doesn't work. I cannot send a letter in South Africa because there's no postal system. It's gone. It doesn't work at all. You've got to use a courier service. And that's for the most of Africa as well. There's very, very terrible infrastructure. The geographical issues are a problem. To deliver something is very difficult. Most houses in Africa don't have a physical address. It's just a geolocated pin that you've got, and that's very, very difficult to be able to deliver from anywhere in the world. So these are real issues on the ground, is that there's very little infrastructure. In Nigeria, I don't think there's one traffic light in Nigeria. In the whole of Nigeria, it's 180 million people. When I was last there are 6 shopping centers. 6. Everything else is rural, in houses. I mean, I don't want to make it sound as though it comes from from back in the day. They're very advanced economies, but very personalized economies. So things are slightly different in Africa. In South Africa itself, you also, in massive parts of South Africa, there are not real addresses, and that's a real problem. So you've got this Silicon Valley money coming in with a Silicon Valley solution, which is not going to work. What you need to do is, so then what you're going to do is solve the problem locally, but also in such a way that your story is strong enough that somebody sees your opportunity and understands it, and then backs it, so that you've got enough runway to be able to do this thing. And this is the delightful dichotomy we sit in. I come with a ton of experience. My business partner does as well. We come with international understanding of where things are at, and an international network of funders. And we now have very good funders to be able to do that. Our funding is out of New York, but it's a fund run by guys that come from Zimbabwe. So they understand our market, but come with international money. So that's the dynamic that we're looking for. And is also the dynamic that one would look for funders, is people that understand or have the vision, not understanding the vision, that you can change how this massive economy will work if you play on the local market way, and you bring a local solution. And that in itself is the next $1 billion opportunity that's out there.
It's so inspirational. So maybe help me land the plane, Andre. You've failed, rebuilt, won global awards, lost a venture, raised millions, and you've kept going for 30 years. What do you want the next generation of African entrepreneurs and founders to take from your story?
Sunny, I think probably persistence, and a belief that where we come from, the African and the emerging market economy is massive. It's where the future lies. You take a look at Europe. The average age in Europe, I think, is 45. The average age in Africa is 22. There is, the world is going to change where we come from, emerging markets, because there's a youth that is coming with what's nice about the youth of today is they're not stuck with legacy systems or legacy thinking of the old colonial thinking of what happened in Africa. They come with new ideas, and they're like, do not paint us under the revolutionary thinking of old anti-colonial playing. Paint us under new guys that have got, we now have the internet. We can research everything you do. We can use AI. We can build phenomenal things. And I see this every day. I work with entrepreneurs. I sit on a mentoring board, on a range of mentoring boards, and I work with young entrepreneurs to be able to help them to build new things, and for them to believe that they can do it. They don't have to, and don't get stuck in the Silicon Valley thinking of that we're all going to build unicorns. We're not. We're going to build phenomenal businesses that empower ecosystems and local economies.
Yeah, there's a new thing now where I hear in the Valley, it's like $1 billion business is not enough. Now you've got to build $1 trillion business, and then I think next month it's going to be $1 gazillion business, and so they keep going. Anyways, no, I like this.
If you can change the life of 1 billion people, now you're talking.
Exactly. Well, I mean, what an inspirational story, Andre. You're kind enough to share. We have 20 people listening. I'm sure we'll have many more in the future. And thank you all for checking in. And until next time, Andre,
Sunny,
hang
thank
back
you
for a
so
minute.
much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Andre. Really appreciate it, man. Okay, take care, everyone. Bye bye.